This unit plan covers the Inca civilization and culture, and it is titled Those Who Dare to Reach the Gods. It is created for a fifth grade classroom setting, about 25 to 30 students with a variety of diverse students, including diverse students' strengths and needs. We have some ADHD, some ELL, and students who struggle with language processing, as well as students who are below grade reading level. So in order to support those students, we'll be using a universal design for learning framework, and I've created various small groups and interventions and strategic pairings to help these students who have special needs. One strategy is also to pre-teach vocabulary and give other language support, such as differentiated leveled texts. This will also support ELL learners, and also we will provide support in their native language. Behavioral supports will include ways to self-regulate, such as timers, graphic organizers, and scaffolding questions to help students as they progress through lessons. And also to create engagement, we'll be drawing from student interests and make some real-life connections for those students. The learning segment will evaluate how early peoples developed unique and organized complex cultures and allowed them to thrive and adapt to their environment, specifically looking at the Inca people. So again, the topic is cultural identity and development, and is thinking thematically through how this early civilization developed their unique culture and adapted to their environment, which led to their unique complex culture. The first lesson will look at Inca culture and religion. Then we'll move on to Inca governance, finally Inca agriculture, Inca trade and travel, and then we'll end with Inca culture and communication, which is the lesson that I selected for my integrated arts project. So each lesson will have prior learning and understanding that builds to develop an overall picture of the Inca culture and create a thematic understanding of what the Inca civilization was like. So students will, as they move through the lessons, synthesize different thematic elements from previous lessons and have a big picture where they can use that information to then create a comprehensive written piece that shows what they understand about Inca culture. And students will also create their own quipus, which will be the art element that helps them actually with explaining their thinking. So we're thinking thematically, right? So they should be thinking conceptually and thematically. And if they're thinking about environment, they also need to think about how does social structure fit into that? How does culture, how does economy, and how does their government fit into how they interacted with their environment? And the key question they'll be thinking about is, to what extent was the Inca Empire a complex and organized civilization? This will be what their main North Star is, to answer this question and build context knowledge to help them form an argument. So language skills that they'll be developing throughout those 5 lessons are annotating, and they'll be using various strategies such as comprehension monitoring, close reading, to help them dissect text and source analysis. There'll also be whole group and small group discussion and some debate argumentation going on, and we'll be working on different writing skills, such as writing a claim, pulling out and writing evidence, paraphrasing it in their own words, analyzing that evidence, and using transition words to help really develop their writing. So the literacy strategy that I'll be using is the 4 square method, which is a scaffolding tool to help students build their writing by forming sentences that support a topic idea and then eventually create their own paragraphs and essays. This will also help students think through their own cultures, their biases, their perceptions, and their opinions as they evaluate Inca culture by thinking it in terms of concepts and themes. As a skill, it helps students reflect on their own evidence ideas and evaluate whether they have the best form of evidence, and also just helps them organize and break down that evidence into analysis. It also helps them make inferences beyond the text that they read. As far as assessment tools throughout my lesson, I'll be using, of course, the Foursquare graphic organizer as a way to assess learning, as well as prompts that I'll include in various activities that they will write, claims that they will write, and in the moment checks for understandings throughout the lesson. And then as a summative assessment, I'll be having them present their writing along with their integrated art element. So as far as the integrated art element, the purpose of this is to expand student creativity, to develop their thinking skills and conceptual learning, and increase the engagement and retention of the material. It also gives them a visual representation of their learning. So throughout the unit, they'll be visiting a museum and looking at various artifacts of Inca civilization. And they'll also be creating their own terrace farming models. But for the selected lesson, they'll be creating quipus. And quipus were a way of recording information using tied knots, colored tied knots. And so students will actually be creating their own quipus throughout this lesson, and then they will be using them as a way to organize their writing. So each section of their quipu will represent a part of Inca culture and a theme that they have studied. And then they will present as a visual storytelling presentation of what they've learned about Inca culture to the class in a summative assessment. And to support students as they go through this lesson again, we will be pre-teaching vocabulary. I'll be using anchor charts, visual aids, and various ELL supports, strategic pairings, self-regulation techniques, differentiated level texts, and real-life connections to student interest. We'll also be having varied closed captions when there's a video or large print when they're receiving text for students who need that. So in conclusion, my unit segment will build on students' cultural awareness and understanding by allowing them to also connect to another culture. It also allows for creative expression of the arts. It'll provide them a framework to think thematically about social studies and build upon their previous content knowledge, and also develop the skill to be a historical writer. And the goal also should be to build confidence and independence in my students. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed.